During the Dance of the Dragons, the Targaryen civil war, where Princess Rhaenyra, who was named heir by her late father, fights to take the throne back after Queen Alicent manipulated her son Aegon into power. After the battle at Rook's Rest, where Rhaenyra's former mother-in-law Rhaenys and her dragon Meleys died fighting against King Aegon II and Prince Aemond, Rhaenyra panicked and decided to send her children to safety. Prince Joffrey Velaryon from her first marriage was sent to the Vale of Arryn, while her two other sons Aegon the Younger and Viserys were sent to stay with the Prince of Pentos. Only her firstborn son stayed behind, 16-year-old Jacaerys Velaryon, who was already planning an attack on King's Landing, with the newly appointed Hand of the Queen, Corlys Velaryon, head of House Velaryon, and Rhaenyra's former father-in-law. House Velaryon for some time had blockaded a stretch of water in the Crown Lands called the Gullet, and thus controlled all access to Blackwater Bay. But King Aegon's hand had been working on an alliance with the free cities of Essos, and unbeknownst to Rhaenyra and Corlys, this offer had just been accepted by the Triarchy, an alliance of Myr, Lys, and Tyrosh. And 90 warships were already sailing from the Stepstones, on their way to the Gullet to deal with the blockade. Once they arrived, they encountered 7 warships that Corlys had sent to escort the 2 Targaryen princes. The warships were sunk while the main ship was taken captive. Viserys was taken prisoner, but Aegon managed to escape on his young dragon, Stormcloud. Sailors attempted to bring the dragon down, shooting it with arrows and scorpion bolts. Although mortally wounded, Stormcloud made it back to Dragonstone. The dragon died within the hour, and Rhaenyra's eldest son, Jacaerys, began to plan his revenge on the enemy fleets. The Triarchy's admiral had divided his fleet for the attack. One squadron was to enter the Gullet south of Dragonstone, and the other to the north. In the early morning hours, the Triarchy's warships swept in with the rising sun behind them, and hidden by the glare, they rammed into Lord Velaryon's ships and swarmed aboard others. The southern squadron landed on the shores of Driftmark and proceeded to send fire ships into the harbor of Spicetown to set ablaze the ships that were coming out to meet them. Prince Jacaerys, flying on Vermax, swept down upon a line of warships. The soldiers began to fire spears and arrows at the dragon. Vermax started to set ships on fire, but the men of the free cities fought on, until someone shouted, and looking up, they saw 4 more dragons in the sky. It was the Dragonseeds, the dragon riders Jacaerys had gathered after promising to make any Targaryen bastard a knight if they could tame a dragon. When Silverwing, Sheepstealer, Sea Smoke, and Vermithor descended upon them, the line of warships shattered. Dragonfire consumed ship after ship, and burning men leapt into the sea. There are different accounts of what happened next. Some claim that crossbowmen put an iron bolt through its eye. Other accounts say that a sailor in the crow's nest of a ship coiled one end of a long chain to the mast and threw a grapnel just as Vermax was swooping low through the fleet. One of its prongs got caught between 2 scales, and the dragon's own speed and the weight of the ship tore a long gash in the dragon's belly. Vermax went down smoking and screaming, clawing at the water. Survivors said it struggled to rise out of the water and crashed headfirst into a burning ship. Thrashing, it became entangled in the riggings. When the ship rolled over and sank, Vermax sank with it. It's said that Jacaerys jumped and hung on to a piece of floating wreckage, only for a few heartbeats, until crossbowmen from the nearest ship began firing arrows at him. He was struck repeatedly, more and more, until one arrow went through his neck. Only then Prince Jacaerys began to sink. The battle was costly for both sides. Thousands died. The Valyrian fleet lost almost a third of their strength, and of the 90 ships of the Triarchy, only 28 returned home. The death of her son Jacaerys filled Rhaenyra with anger and hatred. She took action once the king's army and dragon were away from the capital, and took the Iron Throne for herself, but only for a little while.